Ready for a little Patriots roster talk, Keith?
Oh, I think I'm ready for a speed running back. Now that I hear that, sign me up for a speed running back.
Is Ashton Genty a speed running back?
Is that more like
that's a bulk running back?
Is that more PC than a scat back? Remember they used to say you want yourself to get a little scat back.
Yeah.
Little guy you can throw to a little bit.
Yeah.
But now I guess they all have to kind of do that. You don't have really too many 3-down backs in the league.
No.
Count them on one hand.
And you want a guy who can catch it.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, it's not really.
I'll take a speed back.
Speed back you're in?
Mm-hmm, I think so.
All right, good.
He convinced me.
I thought that was an interesting answer yesterday from Robert Kraft discussing all the Patriots' needs and what they still need done. He's like, well, obviously we still need a tackle and a wide receiver.
Yeah.
And oh, by the way, I'd also like a speed back. So we can get into that all day long here on Jones and Keefe, following up on some of what Robert Kraft had to say yesterday at the owners' meetings in Palm Beach. 617-779-7937, your phone number to jump in today. It's also the text line. You can interact on Twitter and Instagram at Jones and Keefe. Watch along and chat, twitch.tv/Boston WEEI. Always a healthy chat going on there. And on YouTube, just subscribe to WEEI. We will begin our draft preview series today.
Woo!
At 10:45. We're going to start with the wide receiver position today.
Premium position.
Top players at the position, top targets for the Patriots, guys we like, guys we don't. We'll do that at 10:45. We'll be doing that each and every day, leading right up to the NFL draft. It starts today, so mark that down. It's also a Would You Rather Wednesday at 11:30, and Pure Hoops with Terp at high noon.
Yes.
So stay tuned for all of it. Let's just start with a generic question there about Robert Kraft. Was that a suggestion or a demand when he's going through all the needs and what the Patriots need to bring in? Like, you're the one in charge of the purse strings. You're the one in charge of what they're going to spend in free agency and, in theory, who they're going to spend it on. When he says, obviously, we need a tackle and a receiver, and let's throw in a speed back, too. I'm just talking as a fan over here.
Sure.
You know,
He's a fan.
I sat on those aluminum benches.
Just like us.
So was that a suggestion or a demand?
So I think it was probably a strong suggestion, but also you can't name 3 positions and then expect him to draft all 3 of those positions with the number 4 pick. So, I think if they take a left tackle with their first pick, whether it's at 4, they trade down, or even if they take a receiver, I think he'd be pretty happy. But hearing that, what would surprise me is if it's anything other than those 3, right? Like if it is Ty Warren, it'd be a bit of a surprise. What if it's
Mason Graham?
It's Mason Graham, it'd be a bit of a surprise.
Isn't he visiting today, or his visit is soon?
Yeah.
I saw Jerry Fowler had a report on that. So
it would be a surprise to me, just based on Kraft's comments.
I wouldn't like it, but I wouldn't be, well, maybe based on Kraft's comments, but I wouldn't like it, but that pick wouldn't stun me.
But they've invested some pretty big money into the defensive line thus far, so that it would surprise me. Like, free agency was 80% defense. And then especially when you factor in the money, maybe even a little bit higher, especially looking at Steph Diggs' money might not be as significant as it was initially reported. So him tossing those 3 things out there are kind of obvious, right? Like, asked about it, and those are still positions that even with the addition of Steph Diggs, they need another receiver. They clearly need a left tackle. And I think running back has been one where we've kind of talked about it off and on. You've been on Ashton Genty for a while. And so those are 3 things that they could definitely look to add. If they don't go offense in the first round, it's pretty surprising. Yeah, it could happen. And Mike Vrabel went very heavy defense to start, and maybe they truly feel like best player available is there. It also depends on who goes 1, 2, and 3. But I would still be shocked.
I also wonder, based on Kraft's answer there, if something you're starting to see more in mock drafts. We highlighted, and it was an atypical mock draft earlier this week. But Bill Barnwell, his all trades. He had the Patriots moving back up to 31 with KC. Field Yates had a mock draft today where he had the Patriots moving up to 30 with, I'm trying to remember who that was. Was it Buffalo? He had him moving back up to 30. So I think both of them had, well, actually in Barnwell's case, he had him trading for Ayuk. Today, Field Yates had him taking Hunter at 4 and then moving up for Josh Connerly, the tackle out of Oregon. But forget the names for a moment.
Yeah.
It would be checking the 2 primary needs that Kraft mentioned before you get to the speed back. You get your wide receiver, you get your tackle, you're done in the first round.
Yeah.
You got to trade 38 and a future third, but you have an extra third from the Judon trade. I wonder if listening to Robert there, that's more in play than I've given it credit for, where, all right, we have 2 obvious needs. Let's just knock them both out in round 1 on night 1.
So a couple times under Belichick, they had 2 first-round picks. And, the year that they got Chandler Jones and Dante Hightower, they actually moved up both times to get those guys. And that was a home run of a draft. Then, a few years later, you get Isaiah Wynn and Sony Michel, less of a home run. You won with Sony Michel, so maybe a single at least.
But the Super Bowl champion there.
But maybe that is a realistic. They've been very aggressive this offseason, which is unlike previous off seasons. So maybe in line with that, this would be the kind of year to go 2 first-round picks. That would also speak to Robert Kraft's comments yesterday about these are the worst 2 years as an owner that I've had here. Back-to-back 4-win seasons. I don't want to pick 5th again. So one of the best ways to not pick 5th again is to overhaul your roster as much as you can, infuse as much talent as you can. And I think they've done a pretty good job in free agency. And then if you combine that with a really good draft, if you get 2 or 3 starters out of the draft, and obviously you have a better chance of getting starters if you're drafting them in the first round, just based on percentages. So if you pick at 4 and say 30, and then again in the third round, all right, now you're looking like a team that does go from 4 wins to 9.
And, we highlighted this yesterday, or not even yesterday. We've highlighted it throughout the process, rather. But the idea that they're not going to draft for need, they're going to let the draft come to them. When the owner comes out and he's like, we have 2 obvious needs.
Yeah.
Here's what we need, and everybody knows is what you need. It does make it a little more difficult to let the draft come to you. If you really like Mason Graham at pick 4, or you really like Tyler Warren at pick 4, or Genty, and the owner did mention a running back, so maybe that's a little different. But if you really like those guys and that's how your board is stacked, are you going to take them, or are you getting pressure from above, from ownership, to say, well, we have these obvious needs. We spent money to fill in the other gaps. I want to be in the playoffs, as he told us yesterday.
Yeah.
So go get this done. That's another complication, and I think it's a big one. It's your boss. That's another potential complication when it comes to taking best player available, letting the draft come to you.
Well, because it's also, if you believe some of the conspiracy theories out there, is that maybe Mac Jones was more of a Robert Kraft pick, right? Or at least hey, you got to take a quarterback type of thing.
I think Drake May was a Robert Kraft pick.
But I was going to say that.
Year,
So we have 2 examples of it.
Yeah.
And one, at least right now, like the results a lot more than the other. But sometimes that can still be the right thing. So even though you want your football people running that, you want Mike Vrabel making this call. And I still think it will be overall a Mike Vrabel decision. But if Robert Kraft's like, hey, we really need a left tackle, what's the plan at left tackle? We can't go through another season of this. And then, either they take him at 4, or maybe, Vrabel convinces them like, hey, we really like, I don't know, if Travis Hunter falls, or if Ashton Genty, or maybe they feel like there's a trade down that is just the one that they can't pass up. Like, hey, we get this and we get extra picks. We know we need a left tackle. We're going to get the left tackle. But then you could also spin it. It's not as much of a no-brainer as Drake May. Like, Will Campbell's not the consensus 4th pick. He's not even a consensus left tackle. So that one is a little bit it's apples to oranges when you're comparing to Drake May, which was the obvious pick a year ago.
617-779-7937. Kraft says they need a tackle and a wide receiver, which we can all see. He also says they need a speed back. So
I do like that Steph Diggs isn't just we got a receiver, we're good.
Yeah, it should
like
be.
That. Yeah,
Diggs and Mac Hollins, not enough.
No.
You do need more there. So was that a suggestion from Kraft? Was that a clue as to which way they're going to be leaning at pick 4 and early on in the draft in general? Again, you can jump in at 617-779-7937. I had 2 takeaways from the quick running back aside.
Yeah.
Because that didn't seem to fit. We all know they need a tackle.
It's obvious.
We all know they need a receiver.
Yeah, because right now you think they have 2 NFL running backs.
Yeah. I'd like a running back, but I wouldn't have it high on the needs list. Kraft had it 3rd. He's like, this is the other need, as a fan, that I would like a speed back, quote unquote.
Do you think that is reactionary to the team that won the Super Bowl having the best running back in football?
Probably.
Maybe.
I hadn't really thought about it that way, but
the best offense in football in the regular season was the Lions, and they had 2 really good running backs, including one that you would definitely call like a speed back.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's that.
I mean, look, we as fans overreact to what we see in the Super Bowl. We did it the day after the Super Bowl. Like, what can we glean from the Super Bowl? What can you take away? Look at these teams and how they're built, and how can you apply it to the Patriots? I'm sure Kraft does the same thing. So maybe that's a good theory on it. I had 2 takeaways on this. One, I wonder if Genty's in play at 4, which I would be a fan of, assuming that Carter and Hunter are gone. I think that's kind of the obvious thing to tie in. The second thing, I wonder if they're not, and you kind of just hinted at this, I wonder if they're not as sold on Rhamondre Stevenson as you would think. Like, they look at that.
The dropsies might lead to that.
They look at that as, all right, we have an NFL running back, but we don't love him, and we need to upgrade that spot. And I wonder if there was a clue there that Stevenson either isn't long for this roster, and I know they just paid him, or they don't think he's the full-time guy, or there's some kind of hint there.
Well, also, Mike Vrabel didn't pick Rhamondre Stevenson.
Correct.
Mike Vrabel had success with Derrick Henry. And I know you're not just getting Derrick Henry, but he might look at it and say, I don't think this is the guy. Like, if we're going to be a team, and he even said this early, which, you and I didn't love, but one of the first sit-downs with Mike Vrabel, he talked about, kind of I'm paraphrasing, but we're not going to throw the ball 40 times.
Right?
Like, we're not going to do that.
We want to pass efficiently, but we got to be able to run the football too. Something
stop
like that.
The run, all that stuff. Yeah. And you're like, okay, I guess, it does make sense. But if that's the case, and you want to put Drake May in the best position possible, and even if he's not chucking the ball all over the yard, you want to make sure you're getting 4 or 5 yards of carry with your top back and also hold on to the ball. So if Mike Vrabel's seen enough of Stevenson, not like enough to cut him, but also like we need to beef up this position because it's going to be even more important for us than it has been for you guys in the last few years.
Yeah. I don't see them handling Stevenson the same way they did a year ago, and I can't imagine any other coach handling it this way, where they give him too long of a leash for fumbling early on in the season. Then they send a message, but it's a wishy-washy, half-hearted message that they send. What did Rhamondre Stevenson sit for a series like midway through the year, early in the year?
Something like that.
And then
remember, he was like, he's not going to start.
Then the last week of the year, second to last week of the year, what was it? Late in the season, they're like, no, he's not going to start. He tells the pregame show he's not going to start, and then he's out there starting the game. Yeah. So I don't think it's going to be lip service with players in general. Like, if Vrabel says something, they're going to follow through on it, number one.
Yep.
I think most coaches probably do that. That's a low bar to clear.
True.
But number two, I don't know that Vrabel has the patience for it just in a vacuum. I don't know that he has the patience for the turnovers. I know he doesn't believe he's part of the Bill Belichick coaching tree.
Yeah.
But I think some of those hallmarks that Bill was, I think, maybe too far in the direction of, if you fumble it, we're going to sit you down. If you're a rookie and you fumble one time, you're done. You're in the doghouse for a long period of time. But I could see Vrabel coaching it similar to that.
Could you see him as a trade candidate? I know there's other guys on the team that have been sort of thrown out there as trade possibilities.
I'm sure they'd love to trade him, get that money off the books. I'm sure they'd love to do that.
And I even
because I think there's buyer's remorse there already.
Probably. And I wonder, you're not going to get a lot for him. Running backs, I don't think you can really trade a lot or expect to get a lot back in return. But if you want to upgrade the position anyway, and if you're going to draft somebody, there might be teams that are targeting running backs in round 2 or 3 that don't get them. And so maybe it's something that you wait till draft day to end up flipping a deal with. But yeah, if you have the owner talking about running back, you just gave this guy an extension a year ago. You wouldn't think, if Rhamondre Stevenson didn't fumble and had like a regular year for Rhamondre Stevenson, and then Antonio Gibson had the same year that he had a year ago, and these guys were coming back, I don't think anybody's really talking about running back because you have so many other needs.
Stevenson and Gibson are NFL backs. Yeah. And then the owner comes out and says, we need a speed back, which is also weird in and of itself because, all right, we need a running back. I'd be like, it's Genty. Like,
Genty.
I'd be pounding the table. Yeah. I already like Ashton Genty. I'd be pounding the table being like, I think this was a clue. I think they're telling you this is what they're going to do. But then he says a speed back, and it throws me all out of whack. That's not what Genty is.
Speed back. Who is he referring to as a speed back?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either.
I mean, I don't quite know where he's going with that. If he was looking at the Eagles last year, your theory, which I think is a good one.
Yeah.
I don't think Barkley's a speed back either.
No, he's not.
I know he was breaking away with tons of runs.
Yeah.
But Barkley's a monster.
I know.
And Genty looks like he has the potential to be a monster. I would refer to somebody like Jahmyr Gibbs as a speed back. And yeah, that extra qualifier there, not just we need a running back, but we need a speed back.
Yeah.
I don't know if I should read into that at 4 or not because I don't think that applies to Genty.
Is it Henderson from Ohio State?
Maybe he's definitely a speed back.
He's fast?
Yeah.
I don't know. But you're not taking him at 4. And if you did want Genty, how far down do you think you could go and get him? Because that was one thing we've asked, like, as a Patriots fan.
I would say he's consistently mocked at 6 to the Raiders.
Yikes.
Like,
you can't go down to 9, 10, or whatever. Or Saints are at 9, I think. You can't go down that far,
Saints
probably.
are at 9.
Yeah.
I don't know that you can move far past that. And so it doesn't mean he wouldn't drop to you there, but where do you consistently see him mocked? He doesn't get past the Raiders often at 6. And there are times where you see him mocked to the Patriots at 4. So the Patriots have obvious needs, and one other mystery need that Kraft threw out there today. Was that a demand? Is that a suggestion? What do you think about the clues that Robert Kraft was dropping yesterday at his press conference in Palm Beach?